in a post-truth world. Scientific data mean very little compared to memes. Like headlines and memes are pushing the public opinion rather than like solid science.
Hello, world. Welcome to the Vaping Unplugged Podcast. Everything you need to know about vaping and tobacco harm reduction.
Hi, everyone. And you're listening to the podcast Vaping Unplugged, where we talk all about vaping and harm reduction globally. And today we will be talking about vaping in Slovenia, the country which we have not talked about before. And it's very exciting for us to have Slaven from Slovenia as our guest today, especially because Slovenian Vapers Association became our partners very recently, and Slaven is the president of the association. So we're very thrilled to welcome you on board and to have you as a guest speaker. How are you, Slaven?
Well, thank you. I'm fine. I just got home from a training session, which is good, considering my health, history. One of the things that got me into vaping was really, really hardcore heavy smoking, which I managed to quit after 37 years, thanks to vaping.
That's actually what I wanted to talk about as a first thing. So what's your personal experience of becoming a vapor? And then probably it would be interesting to tell our listeners as a quick intro, how did you shift to get involved in the association?
Okay, so I was a very heavy smoker. I started smoking when I was 12. I was in the 7th grade. And I was smoking a lot. In those 37 years, I managed to gather up 70 years of pack days of smoking. And I started experimenting with the vape, I think around 2011. And it took me 5 years to actually quit smoking. So I was kind of like trying to cut down because I was smoking like 3 packs a day at the time. And I quit smoking, and a few months later, I was diagnosed with emphysema, which is not a nice thing to hear, that you have emphysema. But my pulmonologist was very optimistic, which helped. I started doing even more sports. Actually, I realized something was wrong because I was kind of like active swimming and, working out. So I realized something was wrong. I went to see a doctor. Long story short, I was diagnosed with emphysema. But within a year of being diagnosed, all my pulmonary parameters returned to normal. Even above, above predicted value for my age and sex. So around that time, Slovenian Vapers Association was kind of like starting to form because of the TPD that was, that was about to be adopted, and Slovenian legislation, which was even more strict than the TPD. And my background is in biomedical sciences. I'm a molecular biologist. I did go to grad school. I finished 4 semesters of doctoral studies in immunology and microbiology. So I was the profile of a person that they needed to interpret the scientific studies, to talk to professionals. I was also in show business for many years, so I was the right person to talk to the media, and that was pretty much my role. And as a translator, because I also work as a translator, I was translating all the documents that they needed, like the Public Health England document from 2015, and some other documents that were crucial for our campaign at the time. And we didn't achieve much, but we were noticed. And over the years, especially during the COVID pandemic, the enthusiasm dropped. People got inert. Nothing much was happening, and I realized that the organization is pretty much clinically dead, on life support, and the board wanted to close the association, and I decided we shouldn't let that happen. We shouldn't be unheard. We should be a member of the discourse in the public debate, considering vaping and other alternative nicotine products. And I decided I would apply for a president, and I got support from the members, and now we have a working board, and we are back in the game. So this is a short history of the organization and my own personal history. So yeah, basically 5 years of experimenting, and then just overnight I quit. If somebody asked me the night before if I was going to quit ever, I would say no. And then the next morning I made the decision and I just quit. What I want to emphasize in this story is that if there was no vaping, there is no parallel universe in which I would have quit. I thought I was going to smoke all my whole life. I mean, I started as a kid, age 12. My whole existence was related to smoking. I couldn't picture myself without a cigarette. And when I tried vape, that was the first time in my life that I thought, well, maybe this could replace smoking. Maybe this is something I can use and get over the addiction. So yeah. This is the story.
It's very inspiring, and thank you so much for sharing this story with our listeners. First of all, of course, your personal journey, because we always like to ask our community and vapers around us to share their personal stories, because this is how impactful they actually are. What you told us is very, very impactful. And I understand that it's a personal cause, so it might be sometimes hard to talk about that, but it is very valuable to us that you shared it today with us. And of course, it's a really, really nice thing that you are continuing with the association, because I'm sure there's a lot to do with vaping in Slovenia. So let's shift to that topic, actually. Let's talk about a little bit what's the situation right now. I saw, before actually entering this podcast, the smoking rates in Slovenia, and it was up to 20%, which is not a low smoking rate, but the vaping prevalence is quite low. So what's going on in Slovenia? What does the legislative framework look like? Is it challenging for vapers to access the products?
I think Slovenia is one of the strictest countries in Europe, in the EU, regarding the legislation. There are taxes. I think we are the only, or maybe one of the few countries in Europe where internet trade is strictly prohibited. There is no support from the Ministry of Health and National Institute of Public Health. On the contrary, they are considering vaping communities to be big tobacco shills, trying to push nicotine products to innocent adolescents. And no matter how much we emphasize that we recommend vaping only to smokers and ex-smokers as a substitute for a much more dangerous habit, that they're absolutely not willing to cooperate with us. They're absolutely refusing any contact, pretty much. And also the professional community, the physicians, the doctors, they are very, very wary of any contact with us. We tried to collaborate with the National Institute of Public Health because we strongly believe that we have a common goal. We strongly believe that vaping is the way to improve public health, to improve lives of each person who is affected by smoking, and to improve public health in general, but they don't see us as such. And right now they're preparing even more strict legislation, which will increase the price of vaping products dramatically, which will, of course, ban most of the flavors, which will I'm afraid, or we are afraid, that a lot of vape shops, the few remaining vape shops in Slovenia are going to close. And the irony is that cigarettes will remain just as available. They are pushing, of course, their own methods of quitting smoking, and these methods prove over and over again as unsuccessful and not long-term solutions, so very short-term solutions. And of course, they're jumping onto every, media scare regarding vaping, like Ivali and diacetyl and all those, the popcorn lung, all those things that have been present in the media. They spread like wildfire through the media each time, and our press releases remain mainly ignored. We just organized a roundtable on Thursday, and it was largely ignored by media. Our press release following the roundtable was largely ignored. So it's not a good environment, to work, and leaves very little to be optimistic about. But still, I think we cannot just give up. I think it's crucial that we remain present in the debate.
Absolutely. But it's so devastating to see, and it's not only happening in Slovenia. In many countries, the governments are creating this, so to say, vacuum. They are not open towards the nicotine alternatives and what harm reduction concept means, right? So it's very sad to see that reality in Slovenia as well. And you mentioned briefly about the media scandals and all those misinformation that vaping is facing. And we as WVA, we're fighting it all the time, but it seems like it's endless, all those myths that are trying to hit vaping, and we're always debunking them with real science. But what are the most common misconceptions around vaping? And do you think that's the reason the policymakers are not open towards harm reduction, or is there any other reason?
I mean, I don't think that they're ignorant to the level that they're not aware that vaping is much safer alternative to smoking. That would be silly. I mean, I refuse to believe that, So there must be another reason. I'm very, very opposed to conspiracy theories, but I think it's the influence of the WHO and other strong, like anti-tobacco associations that have their own agenda, obviously, because I simply don't see another answer to why vaping is under such huge attack. And the thing is regarding the media scares, and like we live in a post-truth world. Scientific data mean very little compared to memes. Like headlines and memes are pushing the public opinion rather than like solid science, rather than solid data. rather than real life experience. And I think as a vapers association here in Slovenia, we will have to adapt to that. We tried informing, it didn't work. We were even not heard, or were ignored, or were opposed with just bad information. And I'm trying to figure out like a strategy how to deal with that, because of course we are going to push the data and the science and everything, but we need more than that. And media are just they are what they are. Any public health scare is good for them. It's good for clicks. It's good for revenue, and they're pushing it. I mean, like, I don't think they're like all journalists or all editors are bought by whatever pharmaceutical industry or WHO. They just do what's best for them, and we need to do something that will be better for them. That's my opinion.
And I always ask this question because I usually compare what are the big myths in different countries, and there is a pattern because most of them are similar. But do you have any personal experience of hearing like a myth or misconception about vaping, which is so common?
All the time that it's even worse than smoking, that like it's going to whatever, the water is going to be collecting in your lungs, and like kids in the US were dying because of that, like a permanent lung injury. You'll get popcorn lung. I mean, it's you and I know it's silly, and like convincing one person at a time is just exhausting. I mean, I do it if I care about the person, but in general, it's just like drops in the ocean. We need something that will affect public opinion on a larger scale.
So you mentioned COP10, and it was just recently happening in Panama. So what would be your take on that? Because I was there, and it was really sad to see that consumers were not allowed there. It was just like some organizations, pre-approved organizations, that would do not go in contra to their own agenda. But then those of us who might have something else to say, an alternative way of reducing smoking rates, that we were not allowed. So what do you think about how WHO and COP10 influence?
I have a very simple opinion on that. I think that any restriction of vape availability or any alternative product availability to smokers and former smokers is a very immoral and very unethical thing to impose on those people. I believe that vaping might bring some concern regarding whatever availability to adolescents and non-smokers who would like get started into consuming nicotine. But I think that those problems could be solved in a different manner, and it shouldn't be by restrictions to people who need those products. I think their arguments are weak. I think I don't know why they are doing it. I really don't know. But the bizarre situation now is that actually tobacco industry does more for public health regarding smokers and former smokers than WHO, which is ironic and bizarre, but it's true.
I wanted to ask you about you mentioned how the restrictions do not work, and that's definitely what I agree with. This prohibitionist approach has not been bringing any good for smokers who want to quit. And usually the consumers then shift to the illicit trade or black market. Is there any occurrence in Slovenia of black market as well?
Of course, of course, especially to kids. But now that, according to the Chemicals Act, any sale of nicotine to underage, citizens was prohibited even before there was vaping. So nobody was selling vapes to kids legally, not ever. I know pretty much every, shop owner in Ljubljana, and they all strictly refuse to sell to kids. And then you have people who come from Bosnia with a whole box of vapes and sell them around schools, or they order it online. Because if you order from EU, even though it's prohibited, it will arrive, it will, skip the customs. And illicit trade is already present, and it's the most present in the areas where legal trade is, not possible. So, and you need to understand Slovenia is a very small country. In Ljubljana, you're an hour away from Italy, you're an hour away from Croatia, you're an hour away from Austria. There is no prohibition that can prevent people from getting the products. It's the information that is the problem, because, people need to be motivated to use those products. And if they're just as expensive or more expensive than cigarettes, people are going to turn to cigarettes. If they're just as prohibited, like you can't use it in public space, people are going to remain smokers, because that like a smoker can get a nicotine hit in 3, 4, 5 minutes. Like a vapor cannot vape that amount of nicotine in 3, 4, or 5 minutes. So if you're employed, if you take a cigarette break, you get the relief you need in 5 minutes. If you're a vapor, you cannot go out and vape for 30 minutes. So it's more convenient to smoke. And if you add the misinformation that it might be just as, like unhealthy or even dangerous or even more unhealthy than cigarettes, you have what you have, 20% smoking rate in Slovenia, and not a lot of vaping. I do see a lot of heated products, which is okay. I wouldn't use a heated product because I don't like the smell. I don't like the idea of still dealing with this, like tobacco surrounding me in a, like olfactory, the smell and whatever of tobacco. But it is a step forward. It is a step in the direction of a healthier product than cigarettes. So like IQOS and HEETS are kind of like more popular than vape at the moment.
And what's the situation with snus and pouches? Because all across the
almost non-existent. I don't think I know a single person who uses those products.
Mm-hmm. I see. Well, that's a shame considering Sweden's example of how they're becoming almost smoke-free, and the EU.
Yeah, exactly. Even though their initial motivation might not have been so, like so noble, it was obviously for economic reasons, but the result, it was great for public health. And the same thing is, it is related to what I was talking about earlier, like tobacco industry. Their motivation may not be noble, but the result is better for us. They want to make money, like whatever snus manufacturers wanted to make money in Sweden. I don't mind if they make money. I care about my health. I care about the health of people who are close to me, and pretty much care about public health. So if something works, it shouldn't be labeled in a way that it was labeled in Sweden decades ago, or vaping is labeled now.
Thank you. And as a last part of our interview, since we're close to the end of it, I want you to maybe address the consumers, and what do you think the consumers, vapers, or smokers who want to quit in Slovenia should do? How should they raise their voice?
Well, first of all, join the Slovenian Vapers Association. If you're watching this, we are very easy to find. Združenje Vaperjev Slovenije. Look us up on the internet. You'll get to our homepage, and there is an application form, and you're a member immediately as soon as you. This is where you will get the latest information regarding the safety and availability and legislation aspects of vaping in Slovenia. And if you are not interested in working or whatever, joining the Vapers Association, just give it a shot. Give it a shot, see if it works for you. The science is clear here. It is enormously safer product. It is the risks related to vaping are almost non-existent compared to smoking. And give it a shot. Try it out and see if it works for you, because if it does, you will be very, very glad you did. It saved my life. It literally saved my life. So, I'm now working out a few times a week. I'm swimming marathons. I'm hiking. I'm in the best shape I ever was in my life. So I can honestly say this is thanks to me quitting smoking. And if it wasn't for vape, I never would have quit. I wouldn't be here now. So, this is my message. Give it a shot.
Thank you so much, Slaven. First of all, we're really happy to hear about your personal journey, as I said, and also very happy to hear that you're there as a vaping association, and definitely check out Slovenian Vapers Association. I'm not sure if I can pronounce it in local language, but make sure to follow their activities. And thanks to everyone who was listening to us today. And thank you, Slaven. It was a really nice interview, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. And just one more time for all the people in Slovenia who might be watching, it's Združenje Vaperjev Slovenije. Okay. Thanks a lot for having me, and thanks for helping us in this struggle.
Thank you, and best of luck. Hi again, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed our podcast where we talked about Slovenia with Slaven. I think it's important because, as you can see, there are many challenges for vapers in Slovenia. So if you are from Slovenia and you're listening to us, please make sure to follow the Slovenian Vapers Association and just support them in this cause, because it's very important. Share your own stories. And also, if you want to get to know what we are doing on our end to support vaping all across the EU, please visit our campaign, Every Life Counts, and sign a petition, of course. And also, please stay tuned for the next episode, because we will be back next week. Thank you very much for listening, and vape on.